Hi, and welcome to the North American Ag Spotlight. I'm Chrissy Wozniak. Today, I have the opportunity to speak with an innovative ag tech entrepreneur from Blenheim, South Carolina. He's founder and CEO of AgFuse, a free social media tool created specifically for farmers and other ag professionals. I'd like to welcome Pat Rogers. Welcome, Pat. Thank you so much for being here.
Glad to be here.
Awesome. So first of all, can you tell me a little bit about yourself? And you came from a farming background, right?
Yep, I'm a fifth generation farmer here in South Carolina, and grew up working on the farm in summers during high school, and always swore I was never coming back to the farm. And so I went to Clemson University and majored in packaging science. And I did my internship, and I was in a factory indoors and hated every minute of it. So that kind of led me back to thinking that I wanted to farm. So I came back to the farm after I graduated, and really wanted to figure out a way that I could add value to our family's operation, and saw the way things were heading with precision ag and ag tech, and saw an opportunity there for me to contribute. And so I really kind of took that route, took that on for the family farm, and that kind of led me to I guess expanding my horizons with that, and that's how I got the idea for AgFuse.
Right. Yeah. And you farm with your family and your wife, right?
That's correct.
Yeah. Yeah. And what crops do you grow there in South Carolina?
We grow mostly, we're about half cotton, and then we kind of build all of our acreage around cotton. And then we've got peanuts, more and more irrigated corn, wheat, and soybeans. So a little bit of everything, no cattle. When I first got out of school, I was kind of thinking I might want to try some cattle to make a little additional income. And I went to a neighboring farmer here who was an older gentleman. And he said, "Well, Pat, do you still like going to Clemson football games?" I said, "Yes, sir, I do." And he said, "Well, yeah, that's when cows get out." I said, "Well, I think I've had enough of that." So from that day on, I decided I was just going to focus on row crops.
Yeah, that's a good point. Good lesson.
Yeah.
So what led you to start the company? What was kind of that moment that you said that this is what you need to do?
So I was at an ag tech conference called Info Ag, and at that time, there really weren't many people in our area that were doing much on the precision ag side of things, and especially with some of the more advanced stuff like the ag software management, precision soil sampling, and things like that. So I would have to travel to these conferences to meet other people and learn from them, because I didn't really have any neighbors to lean on or any local companies to work with or anything like that. So the last day of that conference, I'm sitting in the audience listening to the keynote speaker wrap up his talk. And I just kind of looked around and I just thought, this has been a great conference. I've learned so much. I'm gonna have to wait another year before I come back and talk to like-minded people, other than picking up the phone and talking to somebody occasionally, on the phone. So the idea kind of started from there. I guess I figured that we needed a way as an industry to connect because we're so geographically isolated.
Right.
And I thought that we probably needed something that was a little bit different from your traditional social media sites, something that was a little more tailored to ag that we could build some additional tools around. And so that was kind of the impetus to, I guess, explore starting AgFuse.
Mm-hmm. And can you explain like what AgFuse is for anybody that hasn't, it's not on it or hasn't heard of it?
Sure. Well, the basic, AgFuse is a digital tool for farmers. The basic functionality of it revolves around a social media component to where you can connect and network with other like-minded individuals, and whether that's farmers, extension agents, chemical company representatives, hobby farmers, you name it. But everything is built around the social functionality where you can share and create content with each other. On top of that, though, we wanted to build out certain features that were ag specific that you couldn't get on Facebook or LinkedIn or Twitter. So we've got commodity quotes, we've got local weather. We have something called AgFuse Publishing, where freelancers or company representatives, anybody like that, can publish their own content, and it's something that'll be SEO indexed and it'll always be there. And we actually get a lot of traffic that way. So lots of our members have written some really, really good articles on there that are very informative, that have really, really been popular. So in addition to that, we have something called our AgFuse Q&A, which is, I think, a really interesting concept, because we wanted to use AgFuse a lot as a reference tool. for farmers to be able to hop on and, if they had some obscure random question, they needed to find a way to get that answered. So you can go on AgFuse and post a question, and then we have a leaderboard that ranks experts in that specific topic that you asked the question on. So you can request an answer from that expert and hopefully get, an answer to your question and get that issue resolved pretty quickly.
That's really awesome. So did you need an army of angel investors to get this started?
No, I kind of went back and forth on that. And to be honest with you, I still kind of go back and forth on that, but I've decided to take the bootstrapping route. It probably takes a little longer to get to where we want to be, but at the same time, I figured that being a boots on the ground farmer here in South Carolina, that I had a better idea of the product that farmers needed compared to some Silicon Valley investor sitting in San Francisco. So that was kind of my thought process. That may change one day, but for now, I had an idea for the vision, I guess, that I wanted to see out of AgFuse, and at least wanted to get the product set in that vision and go down that path and take it from there.
Yeah, and I totally value that. That's exactly how I feel too, is that if you have too many voices telling you what to do, you can lose the focus, right? And lose the real meat of what you're trying to do. So I really appreciate that.
Yeah. And, the other thing that I kind of thought about with that too is first and foremost, I'm a farmer, and, I love doing it. If somebody came and, if I won the lottery, I would still wake up every day and want to go to the farm. Right. So I didn't want to have somebody telling me, well, you're going to have to, leave the family operation or scale back or whatever to focus on this. This is very much kind of a hurry up and wait type project for me. The good thing about farming is I do have a lot of downtime in the winter, and of course rainy days where I can devote a lot of attention to AgFuse. But there are certain times of the year where it's basically just a maintenance period for it, where I'm just checking in and cultivating the community, but not focusing on developing the product as much.
Right. Yeah, that's so cool. Yeah, I discovered it last year and I'm totally hooked. I'm so impressed by the whole platform. So why is it important for producers to have this tool? In your opinion?
Well, every year there's less and less farmers, right? The average age is 68 now, I think, for farmers. So more and more guys are retiring. So operations are getting larger, more diverse, but also more geographically isolated. So with that in mind, you can go to conferences, you can meet people, but you need a way to stay in touch with them. And you also need a way to, to be able to reference certain things that these individuals produce.
Right.
So that's kind of my idea why it's really important for farmers now to have a digital presence compared to where we were 10 years ago.
Definitely. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And especially even during the pandemic, farmers have always been pretty isolated, but it's even worse now. Not even salespeople aren't walking up the driveway now, right? So
absolutely,
such a good or great tool for what time we're in now.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. And competing with mainstream social media, that's a huge endeavor. But people are coming, right? You're doing a good job up against.
Yeah, I mean, them. we've got close to 6,000 members now, and those are confirmed members. That's not just signups; that's confirmed members. Right. But I think lots of people are growing tired of traditional social media and all of the baggage that comes with it.
Yeah.
Good thing about AgFuse is you put your name on there. It's not a username. I mean, there's very, very, very little spam or anything like that because people have to stand behind their name on there. And we do a really good job of policing the site, but everybody is very respectful. We've got some really smart people in there that I know I've learned a lot from. And I think that people value kind of the no nonsense approach that we're taking to keeping the community cleaned up.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's, I'm sure, very well appreciated. I know I appreciate that using it, that it's not just a bunch of junk. It's really, you're busy and it's just the things you want to see.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. And then what do you think the split is of who's using the platform? Like, is it mostly producers or is it, other and industry professionals too?
It's mostly producers. Our demographics, I guess we have about 80% of our users are from the US. And I would say that the majority of them are row crop producers. We do increasingly have a lot of, input representatives from seed companies and things like that are coming on there. And nice. We've got some interesting things that I've noticed happening. you kind of plan this out and then it goes in a different direction than what you anticipated. But one of the more interesting things that I've seen is local and regional input companies, like local corn seed companies, for example.
Mm-hmm.
They found it as a good way to publish some content of their own and kind of get a little foothold in an area that is being dominated increasingly by these larger seed companies. And
Right.
so that's kind of a little niche that I see is for originally I thought of it as a way for us to connect with industry leaders across the country, but also see it as a really good way for local companies to establish a digital presence and communicate with their clients and customers. And by creating some content, they can establish themselves in a pretty crowded field.
Mm-hmm.
So that was kind of an interesting takeaway that I was not anticipating at first.
Right. And you offer advertising for companies as well, right?
We do, yes.
Yeah.
And
That's
the
really
good
good.
thing about that is it can be geo-targeted. So, no matter how big or small your budget, we can probably connect you with somebody that's, that's your target audience.
That's an excellent tool, because being in marketing my whole life, it's hard to target ag, right? On the big platforms, they don't know enough, right? They don't know enough about agriculture to really accurately target. So I think that's really really good tool for companies in ag.
Yeah, and that's something that we're kind of learning. All of this we've had to learn on the fly, right?
Yeah.
I do not have a tech background in terms of coding or anything like that, so I've got a really good team of freelancers that helps me,
Mm-hmm.
go from idea to actual finished product. But as far as the advertising goes, that's something that we're learning how to do. We really feel that the larger AgFuse's audience gets, the more we can fine tune dialing in these ads to people that the way I view it is we can have a national ad or we can have an ad within a 2-county radius or something.
Right.
It can be really, really fine tuned.
That's amazing. And you have an excellent app for our phones. But do you see most people using the app or the browser?
Most people are starting to use the app now.
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting. We get a lot of traffic from our content or articles that people
Mm-hmm.
write, and that's people that stumble upon us from I guess from Google, right?
Yeah.
But over half of our traffic comes from current members, and most of that's on the app. Once they start using the app, they don't go back. So
Yeah.
to me, that means we're on the right track with the interface on the app. I know it's really, really convenient. I'll hop on there, multiple times a day just to check commodity quotes, for example, or the weather. But
Yeah.
everything that farmers do now, is on their phone. I hate to think of how much time I spend on my phone now. So we had to have a good app, and we really focused on getting a good, nice, clean interface for that. And I think we got a pretty good product there.
Yep. You sure did. And what type of stories are getting the most traction?
On user stories on AgFuse, it's just
Mm-hmm.
it varies. I think again, going back to the local side of things, I think it's really interesting to see a smaller company come on there and to talk about to establish themselves with some expertise. Maybe that I've got some local corn seed companies here above us here in North Carolina that I'd never even heard of. And they come on AgFuse
Oh,
and write some really interesting articles,
yeah.
and all of a sudden it's like, well, maybe I need to pay attention to your seed,
Yeah.
So that's kind of one side of things. The other side of things is some of our earliest users are still on there every single day posting stuff, and so it's been really neat to kind of keep up with them. And they're not big, large producers, so I'm not necessarily taking a lot from them to put back into my operation, but it's just more entertaining to see how these hobby farmers and sustainable farmers and people like that, how they're really doing things that I may not do in my operation, but it's just very entertaining to see.
Yeah, for sure. And are there any new features or anything coming down the pipeline?
For now, we've got we're trying to basically just solidify the product, right? I kind of overwhelmed my developers, I guess, with ideas and features up to this point. So I made a deal with them that we would back off for a little while and let them
Take a little
bring
break.
everything up to speed. But
Mm-hmm.
there's always ways to build out on this platform, and so we'll certainly listen to what people have to say. But I think for now, just the main thing is cultivating community. I think we've got a really good product in place. It's very it's very solid. It does everything we want it to do, but community cultivation is the main thing.
Yeah, definitely. And you have an email as well. So all of the people that are members get an email that highlights the popular posts and stories, and you often feature companies and articles in it. So how do you get featured?
Well, to get featured, we ask you just to participate in the community.
Mhm.
If you We'd love for you to create some content to publish a story or an article on here, and we always do our best to cross promote across multiple platforms, and we really get give companies a lot of exposure that way. And you mentioned the email marketing side of things. One thing that we have done recently is basically we've customized some of these email newsletters to basically send you the most popular content on AgFuse based on the topics that you follow.
Wonderful.
And so one thing I didn't really do a good job of going over is when you join AgFuse, it's a purely customized experience. You go through a sign up process where you indicate basically, who you are, where you're from, what you do, and your interest. And so then AgFuse is completely customized from that point. The content that you get is from people that are in your area who share interests with you. And also it's a way that we connect people, so you may be somebody who farms cattle in, say, Texas, and we're going to connect you with a cattle grower in upstate New York. That's just kind of a random example, but that's the way we're trying to connect people and really get ideas flowing back and forth.
Right. That's great. And so, kind of changing tracks a little bit, you have your finger on the pulse of the industry. You see these headlines every day. What do you think are some of the great opportunities in agriculture right now?
Well, everything right now, I guess, that's kind of a loaded question, but I
Mhm.
guess right now, farmers, most of us are growing commodities, right? And so I think there's a big opportunity for us to differentiate ourselves. Now, that could take a lot of different directions, whether it's vertical integration, whether it's trying to brand your own product for some type. But the thing I'm really excited about, and thinking about AgFuse as a platform, being commodity growers, we have an opportunity to use some kind of digital platform to take a little bit of power back because
Right.
we're price takers on the input side of things and when we sell.
Yeah.
There's an opportunity for somebody out there to create a digital platform that enables us to be a little bit more competitive on both sides of those items. Now, also with the digital tools we have in our equipment, there's ways for us to document certain sustainable practices and things like that. So there's a way for us to differentiate ourselves from our neighbors or others in our area. And so we can sell products, for example, I'm a cotton grower. I can show just how sustainable my cotton is based on field practices like cover crops or reduced, pesticides or things like that. So I think there's a big opportunity to start differentiating things on the commodity side of producing right now.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I think that's important now. And yeah, in light of the supply chain issues and that the things we've experienced over the last 18 months, well, and now the insane weather conditions across North America. So I guess what are you seeing in terms of the general mood of the industry, even in light of all that stuff?
Well, I think right now there's a lot of optimism. 2 years ago it was a really tough time, and luckily we have some good prices right now. The thing that we have to manage is prices are one thing. As producers, we have to still make good crops.
Yeah.
And so I guess, as somebody who went through the boom from, I guess, 2012 on for those few years, uh, cautious optimism because you can see how quickly it can go south in a hurry. And there's a lot of consolidation in the industry. There's a lot of opportunity for young producers, but it's going to be the kind of thing that we have to be very careful with how we build our businesses. We need to build sustainable businesses, not just for the environment, but also with things like cash flow and just really not getting too big too fast. And there's gonna be so many opportunities for younger people. They really need to pick their spots, and that's something I try to remind myself of. Not every opportunity is a great opportunity.
Mhm.
Um, there's certainly opportunity costs. There's time limit. There's cash limits to what we can take on. So you really got to pick your spots, whether that's on the farm or ag fuse or in life or in general. We only have a limited amount of time, and we really got to pick our spots and use it wisely.
For sure. So where can people find more information about AgFuse?
Well, they can log on to agfuse.com, and we'd love to have you sign up and see what our community is about. We've got some really, really smart, interesting people on there, you being one of them. And we certainly would love to have you join.
Awesome. And I have one last question.
Sure.
What gets you out of bed in the morning and what lights you up?
Oh, that's a great question. I just love being outdoors. As soon as I leave my back door, and I live right beside my farm, and I look out across our pond and look out across our fields, I know I'm right where I need to be. And we actually, my wife and I just had our first child, had a
Wow.
son, June 25th. So
Congratulations.
thank you.
That's great.
Um, we've chosen this area to raise them and to raise our family, and this is exactly where I want to be. So I want to definitely build something for him to have one day, but also just to go out there and be the best I can be.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. It was great hearing about the industry and what you're doing, and thank you for all you're doing for the industry as well.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having me.
And thanks to all who are watching or listening. If you want more information, the links are provided in the show notes. Don't forget to subscribe to North American Ag Spotlight on our YouTube or Rumble channels. The podcast is available on Spotify, Apple, Stitcher, Amazon, or wherever you listen to podcasts. And have a great day.